It's the Real Estate Podcast, across every state, city and town of Australia.
And welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Podcast, available on iHeartRadio every morning, also on Spotify and Apple and wherever you get your podcast from. Well, the weekend came and went, didn't it? If you sold your property over the weekend or you are the proud owner of a new one, congratulations. The weekend has been a great one for you. On the other hand, it might be another week of marketing your property with more open homes as you count down towards the big auction day, or you might have another week of viewing more properties, more auctions to try and win the day. And the day today is the 25th of July for 2022, August getting ever so closer. And coming up this morning, we are talking properties with a focus on Bondi in Sydney, and we'll be talking with Monica very shortly. If you're celebrating your birthday for the 25th, you share it on the same day as Joey from Friends. Matt LeBlanc is turning 54. Simon Wilson is turning 43 today. You might be scratching your head as to say, I haven't heard of Simon Wilson before. Simon is a mate of mine living on the Gold Coast. Have a great birthday, mate. Thinking about you. Also on this day, I see the world's first test tube baby is born. Louise Brown was the first person to be conceived using IVF technology, and that happened on this day in 1978. So whatever you're doing today, enjoy it.
Grab your coffee and switch on your real estate breakfast every weekday morning from 6:30. It's the Main Centre Forecast with propertybuyer.com.au.
And around Australia we go to look at your weather on this Monday morning. And in Sydney, expecting a bit of cloud, but it should be mainly dry, your high of 18 degrees. Melbourne, unfortunately, the rain is developing during the day. Expect a high of 17. Brisbane, sunny skies. A bit of a ditto day on yesterday with 22. And in Perth, a cloudy day, but also a dry day and your high of 19 degrees.
From first home buyers to property investors and everything in between. Every morning on the Real Estate Podcast.
Well, we all know that different suburbs in any given city can perform differently to others, and that standalone family quality homes can ride out the current market downturn maybe a little bit better than other homes. And if you look at Sydney right now, there is discounting in certain suburbs where vendors have accepted to sell. They were, dare I say it, pragmatic enough to adjust their expectations. And PropTrack reported discounts of 10 to 15% have been seen in the top end of the market. So let's bring into the conversation this morning Monica Shaw from Ray White Unlimited in Bondi Beach. And a very good morning to you, Monica. Great to have you on the Breakfast Podcast this morning.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure and a real honour. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Well, we know that open home attendance is down and that properties are being passed in. A lot of people are crystal ball gazing right now, trying to find where the tip of the iceberg is going to be reached and then start to slide down. So, Monica, what is your take on what is happening in Sydney right now, and I guess especially around Bondi?
It's a great question. I think it's on the tip of everyone's mouth at the moment, and everyone wants to know where the market's going. I definitely feel that given the fact that borders have opened and people have started travelling, that we are seeing a little bit more traditional markets come back into place. And I think people are forgetting that the last 2 years have been a bit of an out of line moment. I mean, no one ever expected for all those events to occur. And, you know, there were no seasons of selling in the last 2 years because everyone was just focused on housing and lifestyle and how to make sure your lifestyle was better and more conducive to mental health. So I think people are forgetting that. And so now that borders have opened, main focus has shifted from buying homes or changing your lifestyle arrangement to going out, I suppose, seeing the world again. So yes, we are seeing less attendance at opens and less people buying property because, you know, focus has shifted.
And having a look at that prediction, I guess, in terms of the timeline for Sydney, do you have a prediction of when we might peak?
Look, it's hard to know. I always say that you don't want to be predicting it, because if you're seeing it happen around you, now's the time to move. If you're waiting for the market to bottom out, then that's usually when it's about to shift. So my feeling is the next 6 months really is ideal. Mainly in the next 3 months, I'd be focusing on trying to buy something if you are looking, because there has been a significant drop. So that's probably the best time to be doing something. And then I think probably closer towards the end of this year, early next year, we'll probably see the market come back a little bit. My feeling is just more traditional seasons again.
Yeah, so if anybody's sitting, perhaps, the next 3 to 6 months, during this period, you get in now, and there's no doubt that there's a discount that you could possibly get on that property today.
Absolutely. I mean, we're seeing it across the board. We're seeing different properties definitely adjust in price. They're not necessarily bottoming, but there's definitely a significant shift, and the heat has certainly come out that we were seeing earlier this year.
And to highlight the drop that you're seeing on properties, you've sold one. Now, this is a good example of a 3-bedroom unit discounted. It had a drop. Tell us about that.
So I sold one earlier in the year in the same building, pretty much the same style, just south-facing, which is traditionally not as popular as this one, which is north-facing. And that sold 3 months ago for $2,050,000. And I sold, as I said, the same apartment, north-facing, on one floor lower for $450,000 less. So that one was $2,050,000, and this dropped down to 1.76. So a massive price drop. And this one that I just sold was in better condition, similar styling, very comparable, but just market shifted and numbers were very, very down. We were having 1 to 2 people. Some part of the campaign we had nobody turn up for either the midweek or the Saturday inspection. So we were very fortunate that we did get it away, and towards the end we did have another person that was interested, but they just couldn't move as quickly because banks weren't giving him the finance that he needed. So, we're seeing that as well.
And Monica, if people are thinking that these are isolated sales, you also had a property with a big drop of 25%. So tell us about that property.
So again, I sold that in March, and it had a harbour view, beautiful property, very stylish, and a newish building. That one sold for a huge price, 2,130. Not much outside space, but a great view. And then an apartment sold in the building that's traditionally a little bit more desired, just diagonally across from this building, and that recently sold for 1,750 with arguably a better view. So we're seeing in Bondi Junction that huge drop in price adjustment, because people aren't just paying anything anymore, and they've sort of taken a step back to reassess the marketplace. So there's certainly some really good opportunities out there to purchase, and they will bounce back very quickly, because there's only a limited number of those types of properties in the area.
Yes, and to your point, data from realestate.com.au shows that the median house price in Bondi Junction dropped more than 19% in the 3 months to July, while units in North Bondi slipped more than 18%. And you're seeing the pointy end of the stick with those numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did have another property that was also an excellent property, had dual street positioning. That had a significant drop in price as well. We are seeing some of these prices, not all of them, because, to be very open, good properties will always sell well regardless this season, because people identify that that's a little bit of a unique opportunity. So I think good properties will always hold better in most markets than just a standard or generic property or something that's a little bit quirky. I think we saw properties that were a bit more challenging or difficult, or had some item that wouldn't be usually appealing to people. Those are the apartments and properties that did much better during the last 2 years than they normally would. And I think that you've got to separate that a little bit as well in the marketplace in general.
Yeah, and we know that the rising interest rates are playing a factor. So too is the return of international travel, which you alluded at the top of the show. So tell us a little bit about what you're hearing on the ground, especially to my point about international travel and how that is affecting the price fall.
Absolutely. So, in the last years, we have to remember that people couldn't travel, and that opportunity was taken away. So now that the opportunity has represented itself and people can go and see the world again, people have shifted their mindset. So buying houses or investments is no longer the number one priority, because people are more concerned, well, if this does ever happen again and we go back into another lockdown, when will they be able to travel and see that? So it's really very interesting to see international people come back into the fold. We've seen more of that traction, and it's more secular. People are coming back in, overseas money is coming back in, and people are going away from Australia to travel the world. So the point really is that it's not as number one a priority prices. So yes, you're getting more interest again, and there is more money coming in, but it depends on what they're looking at doing.
Yeah, and to use a cliche, what about the realignment of property prices and where they are eventually going to settle? Is it all doom and gloom for vendors, especially in Bondi, Sydney right now?
No, I don't think that is all doom and gloom, because the reality is that people still want to live and people still need to transact, and people are still buying and selling because, life still proceeds. So, it's not all doom and gloom. There are people that will certainly pay a premium for the right property. I think it's just important to really make sure you listen to your agent and really make sure that the property presents itself in the best light possible, and that you're doing everything you can and listening to the agent and marketing in the right way, because more than ever, now it's really important to get the property out there through as many marketing methods as possible when it is on the market, and listen to the agent and listen to their guidance and advice. And I think that, in line with presenting it as best as possible, is still going to give you the good opportunities to get the best prices.
I had to ask you the doom and gloom, because that is followed up with the possibility next year the market could bounce back, catch a little bit of a bump. And we all know that property is about confidence. It's about getting that little bit of a bump, a little bit of confidence. Suddenly a different side reemerges from where we are right now.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I think people are a little bit shaken. And as you said, the confidence has been knocked a little bit with the last, 4 interest rates rise very quickly. We had one, another one, and then a double one. People were not expecting to go up 50 basis points. So I think that at the moment there is a little bit of that, combined with, winter, a lot of rain we've had, people can now travel. So I think that from my perspective, that people will certainly get a bit more comfortable once they come back. And as I said before, my feeling is that some market will traditionally come back, and we'll see a bounce back, early next year and follow through. It's very hard to predict where it's going to be. Nobody could have seen, what happened with COVID and how prices, really flared up. So my feeling is that we'll probably have, a little bit of a bounce back. And I think that people will come back and be refreshed from the breaks that they've been able to have and refocus.
Monica, lovely to talk to you this morning on the Real Estate Podcast. I'll let you get back out into the world around Bondi, and happy selling.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity. I look forward to speaking soon. Take care.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.